when I talk, it's usually about kind of the organizational stuff and not so much, you know the deal. I'm the inside the building guy and the mayor's the outside the building guy. So when I talk, it's mainly about stuff that's going on inside the building. So with about 90 days to go, still got things that I want to try to get done on the team building front. So probably the biggest news, for us in the last week and for this week is just our budget. And we have our second public hearing Wednesday evening on our budget. We had our first one last week. For the mayor and I, first budget, so we're learning as we go. Some of the council folks had some questions. Probably the biggest one, I guess, was on lighting and stuff. So we fired off some emails on lighting and feel that we're doing what we're approved to do and working hard at it. And so I guess we'll talk about lighting again Wednesday night and we'll see where that goes. But we had an add-on to the Thursday meeting, which was all the bargaining unit agreements that implement pay for performance. So we're excited about that. With October 1 rolling around, it was our goal to have all of our employees evaluated and to reward them for hard work. And so with the approval of the budget on Wednesday and those agreements approved, and all of our bargaining units, all of our employees will participate in that process. So we're real excited about that. Part of that process includes a new HR manual, and so notice went out to all of our employees last week from HR on the implementation of our new manual. I know this is exciting stuff, but for us it is to get that back in place. So it creates a grievance process and a panel to hear grievances and all of that. It does tackle the contract issue. And so our management team will roll over in the HR manual and have some benefits there that will kind of replace the contract situation for our management team. So we're obviously been working hard on that. So the strategic plan is another big piece of what we've been working on to tie everything together. Our mission, our values, our goals, that's all tied into our evaluation system. And staff, week before last, spent 3 hours working what I call meat on the bone. So taking that high level document that the council approved and adding, ideas about what we need to do to accomplish the big things. And so we'll probably go to council with something, not at this coming one, but the one after that, and show them more meat on the bone. Again, some work in progress there, and we're getting closer. And of course, we're planning a full all-site day retreat in November. We have Quinn Studer committed to come talk to us. All part of this team building process. Something I've done everywhere I've been, kind of get off-site and build trust with each other, and make people do things they're not real comfortable doing. The ropes course out in North Santa Rosa is where we're going. So looking forward to that. Let me pause on the budget and internal stuff and see if there's anything that excites you about that.
That's not council in that, right? Is council coming to the retreat to do the ropes course?
Listen, I've got enough directors that aren't real happy about what we're about to do. It's part of breaking down barriers, and it is designed to be a little awkward to put people in situations where they have to develop trust. I mean, I'm sure y'all have seen what they are. So, we can talk about some staff issues. So,
talk a little bit more about that meat on the bones, about the division.
So I don't have it in front of me, but there's boxes. It's like neighborhoods, and it's the environment, and there is a piece for organizational excellence. It's public safety. I think there's 4 or 5 boxes, and so we broke into groups, and each group had a box. And so if we're going to do this, then how do we do it? And so, we've got in each box, I don't know, 10 ideas about what it takes to create good neighborhoods and what does it take to provide public safety and protect the environment. And so that's what I mean. It's the to-do list to get to where we want to be. These are good ideas, but how do we get there? You know, so it's got, as you'd expect, it's got complete streets, it's got affordable housing, it's got water quality stuff, you know, got some flooding issues to deal with.
Is the skeleton pretty much the same, you know, that came out of that workshop?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. And so, you know, we're close to rolling that out, and it's a work in progress. I mean, that will be a constant changing document because, you know, priorities change and all that kind of stuff. So if you do it right, you have at least one workshop a year, generally leading up to the budget process, where you sit down with council and go, here's what we've been doing, and now if you want to redirect us and change our priorities, then that's fine, and then that plays into how you request resources to do this through the budget process. So hopefully it all kind of fits together. So on our plans internally to deal with my departure and that kind of thing, we're about to start some more recruiting. Keith has offered to continue to serve, which we're thrilled. So when I leave, he'll step up, and I'm thankful for that. I think Keith will do a great job. He has a lot of experience in the community, knows all the players. So, you know, we'll probably start recruiting for that deputy administrator spot soon. Hopefully we can get something out maybe at the end of the week. That's an important position with Kara here and getting his feet under him. You know, that's the next step is to fill that. And Keith's still deciding how long he'll serve. And, giving him the best advice I can give him, and he'll have to make a decision on his own. So we're looking forward to his leadership. So I'll be working closely with Keith as we get closer to December. We're looking forward to that transition. On a couple of other fronts, yes, sir.
So when you leave, Keith is going to be the city administrator until.
Well, the common theme here as I start talking about positions is, and we're going to get to airport in a minute because we have we're building your bench team, having talent that can step up and manage is a commitment that we've made. So, you know, our office is no different. So we want 2 strong deputy administrators, and when the time comes for the administrator spot, you have talent there that you can look at, and if you don't feel they're ready, then you go outside and bring someone in. You know, Keith's commitment is to next summer. I'm not going to even use it a month, you know, and so we'll have an opportunity to fill the position and to see how they perform, and see how the mayor feels about that, and then we'll go from there.
So the goal is to only ever recruit deputy or below, ideally, so that they can be in position to become, as opposed to hiring for that position when it becomes open competitively, or?
I'm a firm believer in posting positions and let everybody apply. So I would think that when Keith decides that he's ready to retire, that we would post a position. If both deputies want to pursue it, that's great, but you consider all the talent available. I don't say you limit it to this, that, I think, but we like testing people. We like seeing how they work, how they fit. And so certainly promoting from within is if you can develop the talent, is the right way to do it. And it sends a message to the employees. You know, you work hard, and we look at the talent that we have. You don't limit yourself. So with that being said, the next one is our police chief situation. So everybody knows Tommy's out on family medical leave, dealing with his issues at home. Tommy's in drop. You know, we've had this conversation. You know, how do we go about doing the same thing in the police department? So we've been working on a job description, which is a position I believe as we've had here at the city in the past as deputy police chief. And so I think it's time for us to begin recruiting for that position and being in a position when Tommy decides to step down of having an opportunity there.
When is Tommy's drop date, do you know?
I don't. And in the city pensions, I'm not sure there's, in the state system, I know how long it takes, but in the city system, I'm not sure. I think Tommy's in the city pension, and so I don't know if there's a hard and fast date that you have to retire after you go into drop. But I'm not an expert on it. So we do have an announcement on a new hire. You've obviously been aware we've been looking for an HR director for quite a while. Made a decision last week to bring Ted Kirchhart on board on the 7th of October. We interviewed a lot of folks, and we just felt that Ted had, he's worked locally here for the school system, worked for Landrum, temporary employment agency, and then he spent a couple years with the Studer Group. So he has a good mix of public and private sector work. With us trying to tie this LIN system and our evaluation system to performance, he knows the system. He did an excellent job interviewing and describing. He's a coach. I'll use that word a lot. He's a trainer from his experience with the Studer Group, and I just think he brings a number of the skill sets that we were looking for in an HR director to this organization. And Rod can now plan the rest of his life, which he's been unable to do up to this point. And so we're excited. So October 7th, Ted Kirchhart.
Yeah.
Kirchhart. I have a copy of his resume here if anybody needs it. So, and we'll get a release out on that. That's just kind of hot off the presses. So, want to kind of talk for a minute about our airport. We drug our staff out of their building out there to come downtown. I love spotlighting, great things that are happening. So I'm going to ask Dan to kind of maybe come up and help me do this. And Matt, if you want to stand for a minute. So we have a new member of our team out at the airport. Y'all know Matt was at the county, was actually with us before he went to the county, so he's back. And part of that building the bench team and I'm going to beat Dan out the door, but at some point next year he says he's going to retire. So we got an email last week from Dan with some exciting news. Don't have to say how much we have an increase in visitors and how much the airport is the gateway to our community for those traveling by air. And we reached the 2 million passenger mark this year, and I wanted Dan to share some of that with you. It's a milestone we've never reached before, and it's exciting times, and I wanted to spend a minute to kind of brief you a little on it. Can you do that?
I can certainly do that. Well, appreciate the time. Well, as we all know, the airport is really a barometer of the regional economy. I tell folks all the time, with respect to air service, airports don't create demand for air service. Airports meet demand for air service. The demand is really created by the regional economy, whether it's the business sector of the regional economy, the leisure tourism sector of the regional economy, the military sector of the regional economy. We work with all those leaders to meet the demands that they have to support the area. And since October of 2017, the leaders in the different sectors of the regional economy have been doing a just amazing job. And I say this because since October of 2017, every month at the Pensacola International Airport has been a record in one form or another. It's either been a record for that month, or it's just been flat out an all-time record for passenger traffic. When the recession hit, our peak was 1.6 million passengers back in the end of 2007. We were thrilled 2 years ago when we finally passed that number. 2 years ago we hit 1.67 million passengers. We were just ecstatic. Then last year we broke 1.9 million passengers for the fiscal year. Well, we just got the numbers for August. Through August of this fiscal year, we've gone over 2 million passengers for the first time ever at the Pensacola International Airport. 2,018,000 passengers. The leaders in the local economy, whether it's the mayor, city council, county commission, Visit Pensacola, the chambers, and when I say chambers, I'm talking Escambia County, Santa Rosa County, the different business interests, whether it's Navy Fed, whether it's Gulf Power, the other large businesses in the area, they're really knocking it out of the park with respect to driving the regional economy, because we're seeing it at the airport. So we just passed the news to Chris and the mayor last week, again, for the first time ever, going over the 2 million passenger mark. We've broken 200,000 passengers for, let's see, May, June, July, and August of this year. You know, last year was the first time, last July was the first month that we ever went over 200,000 passengers in any given month. This year, we've gone over it, again, May, June, July, and August. So we're gonna be putting some more information out about that. But again, hats off to those individuals in the area who are driving the regional economy, because they're just doing a phenomenal job. We're seeing it at the airport.
Yeah. Any questions?
Is that primarily, I mean, you see the growth, I mean, that's phenomenal. That's 2/3, what, 1/3 growth over last year roughly, because we're only about 2/3 through the year. So
We've had, over the last 2 years, when you start looking, when you start looking at the numbers, it's been up over 31% over the last 2 years. But we're seeing it in all sectors of the economy. You know, we like to find out the demographics of our passengers. You know, it's very important from our standpoint to learn as much about our passengers as we possibly can, so we can figure out ways to satisfy demand. We know that roughly 47% of the traffic at the Pensacola Airport is driven through the business sector of the regional economy. 46% is the leisure tourism sector of the regional economy, and the remainder is the military sector of the economy. And what we're seeing is increases in all three. So the regional economy from that standpoint is very healthy right now.
is that primarily, you think, fuller flights, all the more flights, all of that combined?
Everything combined, Andrew, I think what we're seeing is from the leisure tourism sector, people have discovered this portion of Florida. And it's not just Pensacola. You know, Pensacola, Okaloosa, Panama City are all doing phenomenal right now from the leisure tourism sector. So people have discovered this part of Florida.
You think, with numbers being up, will this be able to enable the airport to leverage to maybe attract more airlines to the area or anything like that?
There's not a whole lot of other airlines out there. You know, when you go back to roughly 2000, you had about 10 airlines that controlled about 90% of the U.S. domestic market. Fast forward to 2014, because of mergers and acquisitions, there's really 4 airlines right now that control the bulk of the U.S. domestic market. You have American, Delta, Southwest, and United that control roughly about 85 to 90% of the U.S. domestic market. We're fortunate here that we have all 4 of those carriers serving the airport. Other than that, the traditional airlines out there that you have to play with anymore, you have Alaska, JetBlue, you have Frontier, you have Spirit. People hear about Allegiant. Allegiant is first and foremost a travel company that has an airline component. Well, here we already have Frontier that provides service to the airport. We are constantly working with the other airlines to see if there are opportunities to bring them here to the Pensacola Airport. My air service goals, first and foremost, is retain the levels of service that we currently have. Second is to grow the service with the current carriers. And then third is to try to attract additional carriers to the market. But again, there's not a whole lot of additional carriers. But yes, we are trying to leverage everything that we have. When I go to meet with airlines, it's not just me who goes. I was meeting with the airline last week, but I can tell you that when we go to meet with the airlines, we take individuals from the community with us. Steve Hayes goes with us to meet with the airlines. so he can outline what's going on with the leisure and tourism sector of the economy. We will take representatives from the business sector of the economy so the airlines can hear it firsthand what's going on. Again, it's a regional effort.
You and I have talked about overnight plane space is one of your challenges, airspace availability also. How close are you to capacity? Like, what's your limiting constraint right now in terms of growth assuming it continues?
It's challenging right now overnight. We have 14 aircraft staying overnight at the passenger terminal building. I have 10 gates. So when you have 10 gates and 14 aircraft, I can tell you it's a dance out there at night and in the morning as the airlines are moving aircraft. We are looking at expanding ramp space around the terminal building to accommodate more air carrier aircraft parking. We are looking at some items with respect to the terminal. We have plenty of capacity on the airfield itself. We're not anywhere close to capacity with the runways or the taxiways. And we are looking at different things that we can do with the terminal. During the day, we're fine. It's just at night, first thing in the morning, where it's a little congested.
So there's no issue with, you're not bumping up against like Blue Air or the base train or any of that kind of stuff? It's just the terminal and the overnight?
And the overnight.
Do you know what percentage of the growth is related to flights originating here and flying out, and what percentage is due to people flying here?
Really do not.
No. Do you know how much is attributable to like Frontier or the newer stuff that y'all have added?
We do see, whenever you have a carrier such as a Frontier come in, you do see a stimulation. When Frontier first started service, we were seeing people driving all the way over from Mississippi to take the Frontier aircraft. So you have some stimulation where you are drawing people into the area, and it also helps with the price points for the other airlines. Some of the ultra low cost carriers will bring the price point down from the other airlines as well. So you do get a little stimulation factor.
Well, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
And on top of all that, he's knee-deep in ST engineering and building hangars and all of that. So lots going on at the airport. Appreciate it. Couple other things that we're working on here. Obviously, we had this discussion about scooters last week at the council meeting. So we haven't solidified the map yet. So we're putting that back on the agenda for the meeting next week. The map doesn't, it's a work in progress. I think council kind of wants to narrow in on the map a little bit, and we had a couple of maps last week, so we're going to bring another one back. So, yes, sir.
Is the goal with the map, would the scooters be geofenced so they can't operate outside of it, or would it be owner or operator have to know? What's the plan for that?
Yes. So my understanding is that we can geofence around a certain geographic area. And for us as a staff, I mean, it's a balance between us being able to manage this as a trial program and then the companies having enough space to make a living and to operate. For me, it's more safety. I just have to try to restrict them from places where they bump into cars.
I was just picturing in my head what happens when you get to the edge of the boundary and how that works.
It goes off, I assume. It's an app that controls the power to it, and it won't function. I assume.
Could that turn into
Same thing with golf carts. If you've ever driven a golf cart and you get off it stops.
Could that contribute to a safety issue? The scooter all of a sudden stopping?
Well, if it's like a golf cart, you just have to turn around and push it till you get back into the right area, and it's a training process.
Yeah, but if you're in an intersection or something.
I guess, technically. So we'll see. We originally started with kind of just the urban core area, but I think there's a desire to expand that a little bit. Where they land, I'm not quite sure. But again, we have plenty of time because this map, as I understand it, will be part of the operating agreements with the two companies that we pick through a solicitation process. So, eventually we've got time to work on it. The target's to try to get something up and running by the first of the year. I think that's what we're going to try to do. So moving forward on scooters. you know, our legislative platform will be on next week's agenda as well, so believe it or not, committee meetings start this week in Tallahassee. So the legislative process is gearing up. So we'll have a discussion with council at their workshop a week from today on the ideas. Well, there's a lot in there. You know, there's issues related to you know, trees, obviously. So they passed legislation last session. We're testing. We're kind of the first one out of the chute with an oak tree that we're talking about that we think we're saving. So we'll see how that goes. We've had some experience with the 5G technology and companies that want to come in and put new infrastructure in right-of-ways, and we're limited again by Tallahassee over our role, and we'd like to have another conversation about that. You know, we still have, you know, vacation rental issues that we're working on, CRA issues that we're working on, still some minor funding issues with the airport, you know, $5 million delta still that we're working on for the ST project. So plenty to talk about. We'll see what's important for council. I think the local delegation meeting's October 7th, and so we need to get what we're going to submit to them at that meeting done, so it'll be on the agenda for conversation next week. I see Jenny here. I know we had a fire over the weekend. I don't know if anybody's got questions for her. Unfortunately, there was a fatality in the fire, so fire marshal's investigating. That's an update on that.
I actually have a question for you about the barriers on Cervantes that they were talking about over in Tallahassee. What's going on with that?
Well, you know, there's been a lot of conversation about it, so I'm not sure what you know, it is a state road and the state will design those safety improvements. We've made our suggestions. I think there's ongoing public feedback. So, you know, everyone has an opinion. Some don't like the fencing or the barriers, as you called them, and those are designed to route people to safe crossings. And so absent something that routes people to safe crossings, you have people who will go the shortest route, and that's what's happened, I guess, in the past where people have gotten hit, you know. And so, I mean, I'm not a traffic design expert. In our meetings with FDOT, we want the connectivity for the neighborhood. We want to be able to move people and cars across Cervantes, but you know, we have to respect what they've done and the experience they've had on other roads around the state to try to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. So I'm careful to not tell them, you know, how to do their job. But yes, we continue to have conversations. But in the end, what we want is improvements. And so we're going to have to try something. And as the mayor said, you know, it's not something that can't be altered going forward. So if the fencing and the barriers aren't working, then we'll have to revisit it. But we have to try something. And so we're for the additional lighting, we're for the crosswalks, we're for the safety improvements. And if that comes, in my opinion, if that comes with some barriers in the medians to route the pedestrians to a safe crossing, then in my opinion, you know, if that's the only option we've got, we should give it a try. But it's a state road and they'll make the ultimate decision.
Thank you.
Is there an alternative to respecting FDOT's decision on this? Or that's the option?
Is there an option to?
Like, is there any alternative or no respecting FDOT's whatever? It's just a nice way of saying, this is what we have to do.
Well, I mean, certainly one alternative is that they don't do anything. That's not a good one, but,
Have y'all discussed possibly, you know, we're saying it'd be easy to take the wall down, which kind of maybe seems like that wouldn't be the case. But have you considered doing it without the wall, or proposing the stuff, doing it without the wall, and then if that doesn't work, coming
This is a state road, and they have their design, and what I don't wanna do is lose the project. So, I think we have to work with FDOT and try something. You know, whether they're willing to, I know you tried to pin the mayor down, I have not talked to them in the last week or two, but what I don't wanna do is lose the project. So, we have a lot of cooks in the kitchen with a lot of ideas, and so,
Have any of those cooks besides FDOT expressed anything positive about the barrier?
I don't know who the cooks are. I just said there's a lot of them, I've seen a lot of emails, so,
I guess I mean official cooks, like city and county.
you know, the mayor and I, we've given FDOT our feedback, we had a meeting here, we laid the maps out. I mean, you know, I think we've done what we can do at this point, so we're just, we need the project to go forward, and don't want to lose the funding, so we're willing to try. We got some information over the weekend about new types of crosswalks that are three-dimensional and stuff, and so we're always willing to look, but I guess we're gonna have some, I don't, it's weird.
Virtual crosswalks.
I can't go much further than that. I've seen pictures of something that makes motorists pay a little more attention. It's an eye catcher. I don't know exactly how it works myself. But, you know, we're always open to suggestions. I just think we need to work with our partners at DOT and try something over here. It's not set in stone, but they're gonna do what they think is right to provide the safety for people that are getting across that street. So we have to be supportive of trying stuff. If we just say no to everything, then we don't get anything.
Now, have you ever checked with other cities to see how their barriers are working for their cities that, you know, that are working well or anything? I mean,
You know,
have you
I
guys
think
done
the
the
one that's
research on that,
used,
or?
most often is the Tennessee Street in Tallahassee.
That's the only one I've heard referred to. Have you heard any other examples referred to?
Ocean City has one.
Well,
Ocean City, Maryland.
Yeah.
You know, I've traveled a lot and I've seen other median barriers, but I can't rattle them off, you know.
I've seen on the interstate, like their construction period, but I'm trying to think of one on a normal road.
Okay, I did want to mention, and she's not here, and I'm gonna throw her under the bus. So Allie Norton is leaving us. This is her last week. She's off in Washington now, meeting with her new employer. She'll be back for a few days later in the week. I know this is kind of her peer group. She's worked both at the TV station and here with us. She's done a great job. She's got a great personality. I've really enjoyed working with her over the years. So, you know, we're gonna miss her. Casey's gonna begin looking at you know, folks that have an interest in being part of the team, and we'll try to replace her. But I did want to publicly thank her for her service to the city and to the community over the last few years, and we wish her and her family the best. You know, I'll throw it open like the mayor does, but I'm not as eloquent, and I don't ramble, and I don't go off script as help it. Be happy to answer questions, sure.
Just on something you already mentioned, for PPD, not having an official assistant chief, but, you know, Chuck's typically stepped up to that. You're planning to actually hire an official deputy chief position? Is that the idea?
Yes, sir. And I hope, you know, any of the four captains that we've got are all great people, if they have an interest. Mr. Mallett, Captain Mallett as well, he's doing a great job. You know, but we have a process where we just, you know, and I've explained this to Captain Mallett and the other captains, you know, we like to open it up and see what talent we can recruit. And, you know, we'd like to hire from within, but we're not afraid to, you know, bring people in from the outside if we find the right fit for us.
Has that ever been done? I don't know the history if the chief position has ever been hired from the outside rather than from within the ranks.
I don't know. I've heard different methods that have been used over the years, and heard we even picked a sergeant once or something. I mean, I've heard, not gonna worry about that. We have a process where, you know, we recruit and try to find the most talented folks process, you know, there's the FDLE report and the state attorney does their thing and we do our investigation and that process moves forward.
Have any of those phases wrapped up?
I have not seen the FDLE report, but they have, my understanding is they have concluded their investigation.
And so now it's PPD or city attorney,
Both.
at the same time? Okay, when do we hear something?
When they're done.
Is the FDLE report still exempt?
Yes.
Have you heard anything about the residents talking about cell phone towers coming to their neighborhoods at all?
We've had one challenge that we've been working on is in the East Hill. Where was the?
Portable Park, I think.
Portable Park, where there's, you know, who was it? We met with it Verizon? And we met with them, we've expressed our concerns. You know what frustrates us? I'm getting off script. Is that this law that preempted us doesn't apply to the state. You know, and there's a number of options on state roads that have light poles and high structures up and down state roads. They've exempted their roads. I don't get it. Which is a common occurrence in Tallahassee, I guess, you know. So we're trying,
Yeah.
you know, we had a good meeting. The mayor described the meeting as being positive and they're listening. And we're hopeful that if they pick a spot that just really, it doesn't fit with the community and the neighborhood, that they're willing to look at alternatives so that we just don't get it pushed down our throat and we get a neighborhood that's riled up because of one of these things. So we're doing everything we can. We'll go back to Tallahassee and see if we can convince people that, you know, they can share their space as well as ours. But we just had the one incident that I'm aware of where someone wasn't happy with where they were gonna locate it. What was the end result on that? Are they gonna look at other options or are they just moving forward?
Yes, they're looking at other options as well.
Yeah, because I think the residents were more or less asking about that. We were kind of curious too, which is why we brought it up to you right now to find out, you know, where that direction's going and what's happening.
I think we've made our point clear that, you know, we'd like still to have a voice. We know that we're limited, but, you know, when we hear from our residents, and at least we've got a way of bringing them to the table and talking about whether there's another option or something like that. So far so good.
Has the city considered creating like a web page where they're be posting these locations when they receive a permit, since the phone companies don't have to disclose where they're going? The citizens can only make public records of what they do.
You know, I haven't looked at it. I will say, I don't want to get too far off in the weeds on this one, that we're, you know, because of ADA requirements, our web page, you know, we have challenges like everyone is right now with content on our website. You can't make it accessible to handicapped folks. Then what's happening more often than not is the information that we're providing is decreasing because of our challenges with ADA accessibility. There's a lot of local governments that are being sued, and we were. And so it's just from my perspective, it's a bit of a challenge for us to just put a lot of content up because we got to make sure it's accessible. So we're having to kind of relook, and it's complicated. I'm not an IT person, so, you know, but to answer your question, you know, if there's an application that we can, you know, it's easy for us to do, that we can share information, certainly willing to do that, but I haven't had a conversation with our IT folks yet. So your idea is that we would put something up that would show where they're thinking about putting these 5G?
Yeah, or I guess when y'all receive the permit application, it has an address on it, just list the address.
Well, I don't know if we have an address with them there. That's the problem, it's in the right of way, and so there's, I don't know if we even get that. I'd have to look into it, but.
One's obviously hang up.
Good. I'll have to go back and ask that question. So the point would be that we would kind of share with the public so that we get the word out a little more.
Because a lot of what I've heard from residents is they don't even know that these things are come in.
Correct.
And,
And we don't sometimes.
Right.
You know. So, I think dialogue is, I didn't sit through that meeting, so I think we're gonna work hard to see if we can find win-wins where their location does not negatively impact the residents as best we can.
What I just heard you say, I just want to be clear, we lost a lawsuit over ADA compliance on website.
I think we actually won that one.
Okay, but we've been sued over that issue.
Correct.
And so, fear of the lawsuits and an inability to create ADA compliant content is causing you to restrict what you would rather publish because of that concern?
All local governments have been challenged, so it's not just us.
Right.
Yes, so web page, yes, we are working hard at making what we have now compliant. But we are questioning, we're not just throwing things on because of the risk that what we put on would not be compliant and expose us to a challenge. So we're trying as best we can. So some of, as I understand it, getting off into an area I'm not good at, some of it we host from other sources. And that's not been compliant. So, up to this point, I'll just say over the last 6 or 8 months, the local governments have been aggressive about getting as much as they can. I can't tell how many times in meetings they go, we'll put it on your website, we'll put it on your website. Well, okay, but we kind of forgot that, we have a responsibility to make sure it's compliant. And so we have had to kind of look at as all local governments are doing right now. And I think, when we go to meetings, statewide meetings, there are these sessions about this, and people are having to take down information that's not compliant.
So from my point of view, that's first I've heard of that as an issue being a practical problem. I totally understand where you guys are at on it, but it sounds to me like there's a chilling decrease on transparency of what you guys would rather tell us through the digital platform because of that. Can you
So I think
quantify for me? I mean, how big of a problem is this for new things you'd like to publish?
And again, it's not an area that I can really dig deep into. What I've heard is there's some clarification needed from, I think, the Justice Department at the federal level about this accessibility question. It's always been, reasonable. You're supposed to be reasonable, and so because of the lawsuits, there's a new line, and so we need some clarification. But we are working hard to make sure that what we have on ours is ADA compliant. And we're working with outside sources that are posting to try to fix it. So yes, to answer your question, I think that has had a chilling effect on free flow of information because of that challenge. And it's hard, when you have a file or you've got an attachment, it's not simple, to just make it accessible. And
Especially if it's a scan, it's a PDF or something, yeah.
so, yes, on a broad scale, this is an issue that we either need some clarification on about the definition, or we're gonna have to invest more resources in being able to make sure what we post is compliant. All right, I always tell the mayor to stop when stopping's right. So I think stopping feels right now. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.